Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to another Q&A for the San Francisco Indie Shorts Fest 2022. Today we are lucky enough to have some wonderful filmmakers here with us in the program for Visions of Hope. Hey filmmakers, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Hi.
Hey, I know we have one more probably join us in a moment, but since Robbie and Lorenzo are here right now, could you guys just quickly introduce yourself, your role in the movie title, and the quick pitch of what it's about? Robbie, I'll start with you.
Sure. My name's Robbie Krutoff. I'm actually a first-time filmmaker, so the film that I did is called Things We Shouldn't Talk About. I actually did the filming, the interview, the editing, everything. It was just me and two iPhones. So it's about religiosity's impact on the mental health of LGBTQ people. This short was an example interview I did for a longer docu-series I'm going to be doing, and I just decided to turn it into its own movie. But yeah, it follows one man's journey through conversion therapy and just understanding the effect on mental health specifically.
Got it. Thank you. Lorenzo, how about you? Introduce yourself and briefly what your film is all about.
Okay. Lorenzo Di Stefano, Stairway to the Stars, a short film starring Sean Young from Blade Runner fame and No Way Out, and Quentin Aaron, the star of The Blind Side, the Sandra Bullock movie from about a decade ago, came together to play Laverne and Tony, based on a true incident that I witnessed when I first moved to LA from Hawaii. That live next to those long stairways that traverse between streets up in the Hollywood Hills. And an old lady and a huge guy were bickering at each other as they climbed these stairs. Many years later, I found a script I'd written about it, and we jump started it. I rewrote it as a one-act play. It was produced in Hawaii, which is where I'm from. And then we decided it went so well. I hadn't realized I'd written a black comedy about the very odd couple, the oddest couple you ever met. And so we made it as a short, and we shot it in October in Silver Lake, and it's out to festivals now. I'm very pleased to be in SF Shorts with it.
It's a lovely little film. We're glad you made it.
Thank
uh,
you.
I'll talk more about that in a second. David, thanks for coming back. You look much clearer. And
Yeah,
I just asked them to introduce themselves. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your movie, kind of like an elevator pitch, brief description.
sure. My name's David Zucker. My film is Groundhog Town, and um, it's a short documentary that I made kind of, I guess, like a year into COVID. I was thinking about sort of the ways in which large gatherings could no longer happen. I guess that's something that was on everyone's mind. And um, I'm originally from Pennsylvania. And so I went to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, where Groundhog Day takes place, and made a film about this small town, which typically balloons from 5,000 to 40,000 people a year. Businesses make a third of their yearly income in 2 days. It's the only thing anyone knows about this town. And then suddenly this event disappears. What is left behind? So that's the film.
And remind me, did it start again in 2022? It did.
Uh,
Right?
so it was, yeah, I guess it did. Yeah.
Yeah. And so why did you decide to make this? Like what sparked you to go ahead and like let's make a documentary about this? I know you're from the area nearby.
Yeah, I'm from Pennsylvania. I had never been there. I had always just sort of been curious about this thing. And the more I tried to learn about the town, the more I discovered there's just like this one narrative that gets told over and over and over again about this absurdist holiday. And I just thought there has to be something else 364 days of the year going on in this place. And I wanted to learn sort of what is behind the groundhog. So um, I guess that question sort of drove the making of the film.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen any media or movies or anything other than about the day or the moment of the groundhog.
Totally. It's
Yeah.
almost impossible to find. Yeah.
And it was totally wonderful and intriguing to observe this town on the other days.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, the town is very different than the holiday, but in some ways they sort of explain each other, and so it was a real learning experience. Yeah.
Lorenzo, I know you overheard your inspiration came from actually observing, witnessing a couple having a spat on the stairs.
Yes.
So what happened next? You actually went home that day and wrote a script many years ago, and then you uncovered it in the drawer.
Yeah. Well, I was at home. My window overlooked the Westshire stairs, which were
Ah,
not where we shot, but a smaller set of stairs. And so I wrote it down as I was listening to it, or shortly after they went out of range. You know, youthful exuberance. And I said,
how
"I'm gonna
long ago was that?
Oh Jesus! Do I have to tell you? It was
No, no, you don't. I'm just how long is it? How long has
a
it been
long
sitting in your
time
drawer?
ago, baby.
Yeah.
So I wrote it. I never made it. I found it in storage a couple of years ago. I'll tell you how old it is. It wasn't even on a computer. It was typed. Okay, so that'll frame it for you.
Yeah.
But I was young and ambitious and I was taking from life, you know, things and experimenting. Of course, then I thought it was relevant still. I rewrote it. Hopefully, I was a better writer now than I was then. And as I said, it was done as a play. I just sort of supervised it, or I didn't even do that. I just said, go ahead and do it.
Mhm.
It was directed and cast in Hawaii with an Asian woman playing Laverne and a Hawaiian guy playing Tony, which led me to the effectiveness of it being an interracial, intercultural couple. And then I really rewrote it, and Sean Young and Quentin came in, and we went over the script. They made it their own. It was a bitch of a shoot because the stairs were very real. It was not blue screen stairs here.
Yeah, yeah. Hold on to that thought because I'll
Yeah.
ask you that question next. Because
Okay, sure.
it seemed like it worked well though, having the challenge of the stairs. Let me ask you that in a second though.
Yeah.
Robbie, inspiration. Where did your catalyst come from? The story.
From my own story. So I grew up the gay son of two Pentecostal ministers in a small town in Australia. My brother, my uncle, my aunt, everyone's a minister. So through that journey, I struggled through a lot of mental health issues, spanning from anywhere from self-harm to suicide attempts and ideation over the years, and then to drug addiction. But this was 20 years ago when I came out, and I thought, who cares? Who cares anymore what happened 20 years ago? Surely with increased visibility, with increased gay rights, everything should be much better now. And it sent me on a little bit of a journey, personal journey, to do some research. And what I found over about a 5-year span was that of research was that suicide rates are actually, some studies show, worse now amongst religious queer youth, and mental health stats are worse now amongst that at-risk group than they were 20 years ago. So I wanted to find people and speak to people. So I found this suicide and conversion therapy survivor, and that's how this evolved.
So, do you think the story it was brewing in you to share for a while, and you just needed to find this?
Yeah. So I actually wrote a memoir about my experience, and this story has been brewing for a long time. So, as I said, it's kind of the first of the first little snippet of a docuseries I'm putting together on this topic, which actually transcends just conversion therapy because it's such a hot button topic right now.
Yeah.
It's just the tip of the iceberg of the impact that the church is having, and inadvertently too.
What gave you the impetus or the courage though to make it into a short, maybe a docuseries now as opposed to any other time?
Well, to be honest, I was doing a master's degree in advertising while doing a few other things. And one of my courses was just a short form storytelling course. Never really considered it before. And so did the 1 semester course. And as the final, we had to do a short documentary. And I thought, oh, okay, I know exactly what to talk about. And so I did that. And that's kind of how it grew and developed. So it was actually my first time doing anything like this, or in this media, at least.
And did you say it's with cell phones, with the iPhones?
Yeah,
Wow.
2 iPhones.
It looks great.
There was a lot of color correcting.
So what were some of the challenges of your first film? Besides, being very personal, if you will, and
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
open.
I think the interview process was really interesting for me. This interviewee was actually someone that I knew, and so we had shared personal stories, and he grew up in a very similar way. So that was a lot easier. But I think more than the technical part of it, I think sitting down with someone and getting them to open up about these things and having them say the things you need them to say, at that same time walking that moral line of wanting them to be emotional and wanting to get the great take, but at the same time wanting to just be careful and aware of their mental health and their safety as well. So I think that was the biggest challenge for me.
Yeah. Well, you handled it well, it seems like. And you think because you had a relationship with this person already, it saved time more or less? It got to those moments quicker?
Yes, because we had already spoken about these things previously, so I already knew where to ask and where to probe and where to go from there. So yeah, I've found that going forward with the other people that I've got involved with this docuseries, that's a lot more work because I have to spend a lot more time developing that relationship, because it's not just, oh, I'll just sit down and ask you about your deepest, darkest secrets.
Yeah.
I need to build that relationship first.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's very intimate and authentic quickly, and it's amazing. Lorenzo, what were some challenges for you? Because this question makes me think of not just production challenges, which I want to hear about, but then, one of the things I thought about was these two famous actors, famous to me at least, I think they're wonderful, kind of putting themselves out there as older, Hollywood stars.
Yeah, well, I've known Sean Young's sister, Kathleen, for many years, and that's how we got Sean. I'd never met Sean. I knew of her. She had a reputation. She has a reputation. I found her charming, professional, deeply involved in the character, brave. We put a $50 wig on her and she became 10 years older. And she inhabited a woman who she could have been, an unknown, has been, never was actress. There's that weird moment when Tony pulls up pictures on his phone of Sean Young from the famous movies, and yet it's supposed to be Laverne. It's a kind of a confusing, wonderful
Yeah.
moment. And she says, that was another person, a stranger. And she closes her eyes. This is the overlap between an actor and a character.
Yeah.
Sean would say, hey, listen, I'm 62 now. I don't want to even know. Don't want to see she doesn't like to look at herself. She's seen this film, but only once. She doesn't like to watch too much. She was worried about being typecast as an old bag. I said, well, no one's going to mistake you for 20 or 30 anymore. So you might as well just jump off the ledge and be brave. You can't tell an actor what to do or how to do it, but I think that appealed to her, and Quentin was my first choice. Wonderful guy. They both were line perfect. We made some changes for them to make it feel like their own. I was a little worried that Sean was going to pull an actor thing on me and eviscerate the script, but she did not. A few things I resisted and she was fine. Okay, moving on. But it was a better script as a result of that input. And then physically, we can talk about whenever you like. They knew it was a challenging 250 steps, vertical, big, serious incline. But there's nothing like doing it than thinking about it. And it was tough on all of us, me and the younger guys on the crew, the people on the crew.
Yeah.
But it was a 4-day shoot and we pulled it off.
You sure did. Yeah. It's a very engaging film. You kind of can't take your eyes off because, you want to get to the top of the steps with these two characters as well.
Yeah.
In this short journey.
Right.
4 days.
3 on the steps and 1 with the other scenes that we had to do. Yeah.
Right.
3 12-hour days. We rented a house on the location, just ran into a lady and said, yeah, I'll rent you my house. So we'd have a base camp, because we didn't want to have vehicles and honey wagons and all that. We wanted to keep it low profile, not get the neighbors crazy. But yeah, it went very smoothly. The weather was exactly how we wanted, matching. And so couldn't have asked for, it was tough, but no real disasters, which was great.
And I think you mentioned off camera, you're also a documentarian filmmaker as well.
Yeah, I made 3 feature documentaries. Starting in the early '80s, I made a film called Talmadge Farlow about the famous jazz guitarist Tal Farlow. Los Zafirros, a documentary I made in Cuba, came out in 2007. And then Hearing is Believing in 2017 about a young blind musician named Rachel Flowers.
And is this your first narrative short or first narrative project?
Since early days, yeah, I've been basically a writer director, and I worked on TV series as a supervising. I'm a film editor by background.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I hadn't revisited the short form for a long time, and it's changed a lot in terms of places to show them what you guys are doing. It's a whole new universe. So I was pleased to jump back in. Yeah.
So why a short? It's just because that's what the material dictated, or you want to make a short, or you know?
Well, I didn't want to overstretch it. I mean, as my fellow filmmakers know, shorts are often an avenue for a feature. This is not. The play was 19 minutes. The movie's 25 minutes, which allows for some of the opening up that happened. I always saw it as a vignette, a slice of life that came and went, like many do. So that was the intention. Yeah, I think it's important to fit the form to the story, because the goodwill you gain with an audience in the first few minutes can disappear after a while. And
Yeah.
Okay, get on with it.
Yeah. No, you held me as far as me watching through the whole thing, so it was
Thank you.
wonderful
Great.
to go on that journey. David, challenges for you making your movie.
People in Punxsutawney don't
You're
answer their.
smirking and smiling, so I think you had challenges when I asked that
Yeah,
question.
no, I had challenges. People in Punxsutawney don't answer their phones, so doing pre-research, from California was not a simple process. So we really kind of dropped into town and were grabbing anyone off the street who was willing to sort of stop and chat for a few minutes. Also, Punxsutawney in January is ridiculously cold. The film was inspired by a number of films sort of going around New York City in the summer, and films of that sort of style, and yet being in Punxsutawney in January, like there aren't just people walking down the street experiencing life. So we were really on a hustle, just kind of looking for really any life anywhere, we were walking into stores, seeing who would talk to us.
But were people kind of resistant, hesitant? Because it seems all the attention they get generally.
What's interesting is that it's a tourist town from its origin. Like that's their thing, and they want to make people feel welcome. And so whether it's because they're kind of selling a narrative to me, or whether they're authentically like extremely kind people were really willing to talk when we approached them. We were not able to gain access, really sort of intimate access, with Phil or his protectors, who were the guys in tuxedos who stand on stage every year. They're called the Inner Circle, and they've really tightened security lately, is what I've come to understand. So,
is it the same groundhog for all these years, David?
According to them, it is the same groundhog.
Reveal that it's a different, like a substitute.
Yeah, good question. What is the age span of a groundhog?
Yeah,
I think it's 7 to 9 years, and they say that they have a yearly celebration, I think in September, where they feed the groundhog what's called the elixir of life, and then it continues to. Anyway, they hold really tight to this narrative, but who knows whether he is in fact 140 years old. Yeah,
only in America.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
Is there anything you guys wanted to convey or hope that your audience felt after watching your movies? And David, since I'm on you can keep going.
I think what I was really trying to lean into was a sense of uncertainty in a situation where you're used to the same thing happening every year. Like Groundhog Day is just this staple that is kind of background noise for a lot of people. I think that just every year this very strange thing happens, And for the people in this town, it's an economic boost. It's a sort of spiritual boost in the dead of winter. It's all about tradition, and yet like we are or were in this moment of like a real shakeup. And where I was waking up every day, like I nearly without a sense that there was a definitive future. And certainly with a sense that I didn't know what that future looked like. So I think that's sort of what, you know, I was looking to capture and what pretty organically emerged chatting with people. That or a resistance to that idea, this like fact that no, everything is fine and as long as we have Phil, everything's going to be okay, which was something to hear for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Robbie, how about you? Were you hoping, and did you realize what you wanted to capture and convey, communicate?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I wanted to convey is that, you know, these issues are still happening. They're actually worse than we think. You know, we living in especially in San Francisco, in a progressive urban bubble. It's easy to think that these issues of homophobia are a thing of the past, but in a lot of the rural places through the Bible Belt, in religious conservative homes and towns, suicide amongst these groups are astronomical. Like and it's not being talked about, which is why I named it Things We Shouldn't Talk About. Churches are not really talking about this issue. Even a lot of advocacy groups, queer advocacy groups, aren't really talking about this issue. And I wanted to really find out why, which is probably my next journey. But yeah.
Yeah. And Lorenzo, same question to you. Did you hope to leave the audiences feeling a certain way or convey a certain feeling? Communicate something?
Well, I wanted to recapture the immediate moment when I first heard the incident happen. It's quite a trick that many decades later. But with the help of these actors and the crew and what I hope is a sharp and intuitive script, the fact that, the log line of the movie is in a world, basically in a place, in a mythical place called Hollywood, where dreams of fame and fortune come and go. The only real thing left is friendship. And Hollywood and friendship don't necessarily go together. It's such a rivalrous town. And it's not even a town anymore. It's a concept, you know, a mental state. So I wanted to get back to the basics of the unlikeliness of this aging white actress who suffers depression, who better days are way gone, and a young buck who wants to be the most famous fat man in Hollywood, as he self-proclaims. And what holds them together? What's the glue that holds them together? And the ambition, the dream, the Hollywood thing, but it basically is caring, right? And he says, you're a tough old broad who I'm proud to call my friend. And she says, you want something, what is it? In other words, this goes on, this mistrust. But by the end of that 25 minutes, I think you've resolved, if not completely, who they are to each other and what they mean. And that the afterlife of that moment as the car drives away, they're going to go get ice cream, and maybe life will be a little better for having made this climb, you know?
Yeah, and it's a perfect setting for that, you know, as a metaphor for the relationship, for the history together, for the challenges together, you know, walking up that stairwell.
Well, it's very Sisyphean, you know, if you
Yeah.
get to the top of the stairs, you've made some kind of so if you did this 3 times a week, it'd save your life. Well, there's no freaking way she's doing this again, ever. She finds any excuse not to go. She calls rape, this and that. And so it's a comedic, hopefully an insightful moment into what holds people together in a town where people are using each other, climbing all over each other. They live in the same apartment complex. There's that, but she reviles him. She doesn't like him, you know, and he loves her. So there you have it, you know.
Yeah. Do you guys have any interesting anecdotes or memorable moments from your filmmaking journey on this project? Anything that happened that was unique or a standout?
The fact that it got done, the fact that it got finished and nobody had a heart attack in my case, with the stairways. It could have happened to any of us, really. It was a bitch. Yeah. And also the fact that you can take an idea, in my case, take an idea, translate it over many mediums, real life, theater, film, and have it hold together into something, relatable,
Yeah. Yeah.
applicable to where we are. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a testament to the idea, right? Your idea works.
That's some testament to the integrity of an idea and also the execution on a lot of people's parts. Yeah, lots of people.
Sure.
This was not an
David?
iPhone movie. I wish it had been. Saved me a lot of money. But
Not that you need to get technical. What did you shoot it on, Lorenzo?
it was an Arri Alexa. It was shot by Jonathan Hall and a crew of about 25. I said, Jesus, do we need all these people? I tell you what, we did. So there you go.
Right. Yeah. Well, it shows up on the screen, right? It's beautiful.
Hopefully, thank you.
Yeah, David. Any memorable moments during the process?
I mean, the movie Groundhog Day wasn't shot in Punxsutawney. It was shot in Illinois, but I did get to like wake up on Groundhog Day in a bed and breakfast, like on their one main street. So there was something really kind of surreal about that. I mean, my producer, Luke Terrell, who shot the whole thing with me, he and I were interested in sort of like finding our way down into a coal mine, or at the very least, even just getting to sort of film one from a distance. And we were talking to the receptionist at a like a grave store. I don't know what the word for that is.
Wow.
We sort of mentioned, we were sort of talking about what kind of stuff we're trying to film here. And she says, oh, like my brother-in-law is the head of this coal mine. And she connects us. And the next morning at like 6 a.m., we're putting on like the overalls and all this crazy shit. And we're going down into a coal mine, and we're on one of those carts where you're like leaning back because
Wow.
the whole thing is only, like 3 feet high.
Right.
So that was somewhere that I just didn't anticipate us finding ourselves, and was a really like enlightening experience just to talk to the guys down there who, are up at 4 a.m. and they're like this, and they are just in there with no natural light for 30 plus years.
Yeah, crazy. You know what? I just realized all three of your films. You guys put me in the space, in the place, really well. I mean, like I am on the stairs with them. I am in the churches or the struggles with your character, Robbie, and I am in Puxatani. I mean, just remembering now, it's like I remember I was present. Almost like I was in that space that your stories take place. Was that intentional? I mean, or just a byproduct of like good filmmaking?
That's the job, isn't it?
You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, I was there with your two characters sweating the stairs.
The filmmakers often take front and center, Michael Moore and people like that. They do it very well. I'm more of an advocate of disappearing, and letting the piece carry itself. I think I've seen both your films, David and Robbie. Robbie, that film was, as a former Catholic altar boy, was a revelation to me. I'm not gay, but I completely connected with this guy and how much more difficult life was for him than it needed to be, and probably for you too. And so this is about humanizing these characters, whether it's a documentary or a narrative. They're different, but there's the humanity there that they share, right?
Yeah, agreed. I think for myself, it was, part of me wanted to be participatory and be like, oh, well, I've got a story as well. Shouldn't I do that? And I kind of struggled with that. And I was like, no, once I sat down to do that interview, I was like, I don't need to. Like, it was shocking to hear the parallels between my story and his, and we grew up a world apart. And the detail of those parallels, the detail of things that were said and actions that were done and the effect that it has on the individual was so profound and so similar. I was sitting there the whole time just with goosebumps, and we ended up having like a 2-hour interview because we just kept talking and talking. And yeah, it made me realize that he was he was telling my story. Absolutely. And so I realized it didn't need to be participatory because his story is telling everyone's that has gone through this issue. So
Wow.
I hope that comes through.
Yeah, it does. It does. So we got to wrap this up real soon. Let me ask one more question, or maybe two more questions. Robbie, what's something maybe you learned by making this movie?
Oh my God, so much.
It could be personal. It could be the filmmaker.
I learned that. Oh God, there's so many things. I learned that this is just much bigger than myself. Going into this, I kind of didn't quite realize that. And the amount of research I did on the back end for this, it wasn't just sitting down with one person. So yeah, realizing that it's just much bigger than me.
Was that helpful?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
David, learn anything?
I took some, experimental editing risks, I would say, with this one, which I think is always what I want to do when I'm sitting at the edit, but rarely have the courage to sort of leave it in and go share it with people.
So why'd you do so now?
Because I just had no idea what this movie was supposed to be, and eventually said, like, I'm just gonna do the weird shit that's inside me and like see what happens. And so it's been a pleasure to get to share that with people and find out that it connects sometimes.
Yeah. You know what else I'm hearing? Maybe I'm wrong, but also the three of you kind of made films for yourself at first. And that's usually, I find, the better strategy than to try and please a mass audience. And if you make a film for yourself that you're pleased with, you're going to reach an audience. So I'm just hearing that now. But Lorenzo, also, learn anything?
Well, first, I think the short form guarantees you limited access to the mass audience, right? So even with the proliferation of festivals like yours, you're not gonna penetrate like you would with a feature, even a bad feature. Be that as it may, I guess I learned or relearned what I knew already, was that this film was shot in 4 days, edited in 5 months. Monroe Robertson was the editor, fantastic guy from England. 19 versions of a 20-minute film. Really, as an editor myself, we worked really well together. Just that idea of, even with limited takes, limited footage, because you don't have time, a single camera, you explore until you can't explore anymore. You reach the end of the flat world and you go over the edge, or you just keep going, And at some point you have to say, in the editing room, a term we used to use is better is the enemy of good. In other words, you keep trying to make it better. It's already good. You need to know when to stop.
Yeah.
Trust the audience. And then the festivals come in and either they get it or they don't get it. So I'm glad you guys got it. And we'll be showing it at the Roxy, and that's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I could keep talking to you guys. You're wonderful people. Pleasure to talk to. But we got to wrap it up for the next thing I got to go on to. Any last item you want to add, or something I didn't ask you? Last parting words. Lorenzo, I'm on you, so I'll start with you.
Not really. Just thanks for giving a forum for these, what effectively are short stories, like a John Cheever or a John Updike or Frank O'Connor, the great short story writers and filmmakers. That's really important. So thank you.
Well, thank you for making your film.
Good work.
David, anything you want to?
Yeah, likewise. It's really fun to get to share this and to see these other films. And thanks so much for including us.
Thank you. Robbie, last words, anything you want to add?
Yeah, same. Just really thankful that a first-time hack like me was able to be part of this. So I'm just thankful.
Well, and we're thankful that you guys made your movies. We're thankful to the audience that watched and supporting indie film. Congrats, guys. Congrats on making a movie, because you guys all know how hard it is just to finish a film. And congrats on getting into our film festival. Well deserved. I hope to meet you in person someday.
Thanks, Jason. Best of luck,
Awesome.
everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye now.
Take care.